A little while back I was looking at videos and I saw one of a person who used a balloon and actually poured the resin inside of the balloon to make like a planter. I think they also did like a globe for a light or something, and I've been wanting to try it. So I did get some thick resin. It's this ultra clear epoxy, premium epoxy, and I mixed up about 4 ounces of the resin, and I am going to pigment that with a dark pigment so that I can see it, hopefully, because the only balloon I have is a red one. So I'm going to put that pigment in and mix it. Now that I have my pigment mixed in, I'm going to pour that into this bottle. And make sure you use a bottle that you're okay throwing away when you're done, because there's no way you'll be able to get the resin out of this. And then I'm going to put that lid back on. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use some mold release, and I'm going to spray that into the balloon. I think if I turn the balloon inside out and spray it, it would probably work better. So yeah, and then I'll turn it right side in. I'm going to go ahead and massage it a little, and then I'm just going to blow it up to the size I want. Okay, so I want a pretty good size on that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist the balloon, and then I'm going to place the empty part down on this tip, and then I'm going to hold that but open the balloon. There. And then I'm going to turn this all upside down, and I'm going to squeeze the resin into the balloon. In hindsight, I probably should have taken that tip off and just put it right around the mouth of this jar, because it's taken a while to squeeze it down in here. I wonder if I can change course. Much better. Alright, now I'm going to twist the balloon, and I'm going to pull that off and make a mess. Alright, I'm going to clean myself up, because now I need to tie the end of this balloon. Which is much harder to do when your hands have stuff all over them. Well, that was not simple. Alright, and now all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the balloon and make sure that I coat the entire thing. And you can see the difference in color, so you'll know where you have it coated and where you don't. And you just want to keep turning it until you get it entirely coated. This does take a little while, so make sure you're patient with it and that you do coat the entire area of the balloon. And once that surface is fully coated, you just want to keep moving it around so that the resin doesn't pull in one specific area. And you're going to want to keep rotating it for probably 15 to 20 minutes. And you can let it sit for a minute or so and then just come back and move it. You just don't want it to be sitting in the same spot for a long period of time, because while the resin is still fluid, it'll all pull into that one spot. So you just want to keep it moving until it gets to a gelatinous state where it won't have a tendency to pull into one spot within the balloon. And depending on the resin that you're using will depend on how long that takes. For the resin that I have here, it said it had a pot life of 5 minutes, but I actually degassed mine for 9 minutes before I even mixed in my pigment. So we're probably 15 minutes in, and I can still feel that it's fluid in here. So you can't always go by what the bottle says too. It's really just feeling it. You'll feel when it's not moving as much. And I'm sure if you have a cup turner, you could probably find out a way to rig this somehow to have the arm piece hold here, and then have something cupping this and have it turn for you. Since this is the first time I'm doing this, I'm just going to do it manually. If I like the result and I plan on doing more of these, I'll try to figure out a way to utilize the cup turner so I don't have to sit here with it and turn it. If you do wind up doing this and using a cup turner, you cannot just let it turn until it's hardened, because once this gets to a point where it's not so fluid, we're going to sit it down and give it a base. So you want to have where you can actually like push it down, and so it'll have a flat base. And if you let it go too long, you won't be able to do that. Alright, mine's gotten gelatinous. So about every 10 minutes or so, you do want to come flip it if you're not going to sit here with it. So you'll want to find a way to be able to hold that steady. I mean, you could just grab a couple of bottles or something to just kind of keep that in place. And then in about 10 minutes, come back and flip it the opposite way. And you want to probably do that for about an hour, just to really make sure that you don't have any clumping of the resin. So I will leave this for 10 minutes, and then I'll come back and I'll flip it completely over. So the little thing I tied will now be showing. And then 10 minutes after that, I'll flip it so that you'll see this side again. And I'm not going to video all of that. I'll just wait until that's done, and then I'll come back and show you the next step. Alright, it's the next day, and this is pretty cured. It's still got some pliability to it, but I'm going to go ahead and remove the balloon to see what we have. Okay, I was able to get the majority of the balloon off. I will say that is a test of patience, to put it mildly. As you can see, there's like still a little bit of residual, and also a couple of dents from where I pressed too hard as I was taking it off. So either I can decide to just make indents and give it a certain look, or once I go to the next step, I'm going to cut this top part off. I could try to push them back out, like, you know, dent removal type of thing. So I am going to get a paper towel with some isopropyl alcohol to see if I can get off that residual balloon. Nope, it's not working. Okay, I finally got the balloon off. That was probably the biggest test of my patience to date this year, but it's off. I did have to use a utility knife to kind of like scrape it, not scrape it where it's going to scratch the surface. It's just kind of like trying to get right on the top of that balloon to get it to remove from the resin. It wasn't easy, but you have to be really careful because this is extremely thin. This is just the shell, and you could easily poke right through. So if you do plan, if it happens, if you make this and you have the balloon that's stuck, just be really careful using this. One, you don't want to cut yourself, but two, you could also puncture your piece. But now I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next step, which is to cut this top off so we can have an open bowl. And the video I watched, she used cups to mark around. So I'm going to try that and see if it works for me, because that'll give you an idea of where you want the bowl. I think right there will be good. And then I'm going to grab a Sharpie. And so all she had done was put the Sharpie out and then move the balloon around. I'm not getting a straight line, so it's probably because my base is messed up. Oh, that'll give me a starting point, and then I'll just have to sand, which I would probably have to do anyway. Okay, so you are going to need a Dremel tool for this next part and a blade. I have this little set here to be able to cut that top off. And then I am going to cut across the line here. I'm going to put a mask on because I don't want that dust in my face. And now I'm just going to cut around the line. Way too loud. Let me try it like this. I decided to not use the Dremel. I'm just going to do some scissors. And then I will sand it to clean it up. I'm not saying I recommend this, but that thing just kind of doesn't make, it's just too noisy. Well, I totally deviated from what the video I saw did, but no point in 100% copying somebody anyway. Now I'm working on trying to get the dents out that I put. If you actually let this cure properly, which is what I would normally do, you would not have this issue of pliability that I'm having where I'm getting these little dents. I had to take this before the full 3-day cure, take the balloon off, because my base was not flat. I did sit it on a flat surface, but for some reason I didn't get a flat base. So I wanted to get it open while it was still pliable, so I could then take something and put it down in here to weigh it down and make a flat base. Otherwise, it's kind of pointless to have done this at all, because the whole point is to have something that sits flat and not a balloon shape. So I tried doing it while it had the balloon on it, and I was just making indentions, and it wasn't actually flattening the bottom. So I chose to take the balloon off and go ahead and cut it open now. I'm going to let this now sit with this bottle in it for 48 more hours, which is the full cure time for this resin. And then I will come back and reshape the top, and we'll sand the top. I don't want to do it now because this thing is still so pliable, and I don't want to make even more indentions. So I am going to just leave it alone and let it finish curing, and then I will come back in 48 hours because we then will need to do another pouring over the outside to strengthen this. Because right now the resin is so thin that even after the full 72 hours, it won't be, it's just not thick enough to be extremely sturdy. So I will let this sit and I will be back. Okay, I'm back, and I allowed this to sit and cure some additional time. So it's firmer now. It's still extremely thin, but what I'm going to do now is pour the outside coat onto this. And all I've done is put a mold. I had a drip tray, silicone drip tray thing as well. I was just concerned I didn't want it to overfill, so I put it on the mold as well, just to make sure I don't have a mess later. But all I've done is I put some cups together, put some plastic wrap over that just to sit the bowl flat, and I mixed up 8 ounces of resin, and I pigmented them mainly with paints. So all I'm going to do now is just pour that layer over, pretty much like a dirty pour. And I do have the original color that I used as well as one of the colors that I've chosen. So I'm just going to pour over the existing piece. And then you just let it drip down. This is some silver. That's a blue halo gold. This is metallic silver. This is the original, which is a Peacock Dance. And then this is a mixture of, I'm trying to see what color this one is, of Sky Flash and Ocean White. Alright, now that all the resin is on, I'm going to use a torch to get out any micro bubbles that might be on there. Just a forewarning, this thick resin has a lot of bubbles, but they're like micro bubbles, so you won't necessarily see them sitting on top. But once you pass over them with the heat, you can watch them being burst. So I would say probably for a good 10 minutes or so, go back over it with the torch just to make sure that you've gotten all those micro bubbles. I would not recommend using isopropyl alcohol because that will make this run faster. And the whole reason that we use the thick resin and paints and pigment paste and stuff like that is so that it would have a slower, more organic flow in this dirty pour, as opposed to what you're seeing down here being what this looks like up here, or it even just washing all of that away. So I'm not going to spray it. I will come back every couple minutes for the next 10 to 15 minutes just to retorch. Don't torch it too much because your shell underneath is really thin and you could easily warp it. So I will continue to do that. I'm going to let it sit for the full 72 hours and then I will come back and clean up the edges. So I will be back. Okay, I've allowed this to sit for a few days and so it is complete. It needs to just have the top edging here, sand it. So I do have a Dremel with a sanding bit on it, so that I'm going to use along this top part. But it turned out really pretty. I'll show you. And you could use this for anything. You could use it as a bowl. On one of the videos I saw, you could actually cut this part out and then you could use this as a globe for a lamp, which is a very interesting idea. Or you could use it for a plant to put it in here and let this be the outer pot. You could do lots of things with this. I do know that the resin I used is food grade, so even if you wanted to like put fruit in here, you could safely do that as well. Because I had this hanging upside down as I was doing the pour, there are these drip dots here. Some of them are sharp, so I'm going to use my Dremel with a sanding tip, and all I'm going to do is go over that and I'll show you real quick. And that's what I'll do around the whole edge. And I'm doing this on the low speed on purpose because I don't want to accidentally take too much. So it will take a little bit longer, but it's not that excessive amount of time to get that done. And then once I finish doing that around the edge, I'll go over it with some UV resin and a paintbrush just to get rid of that matte look there from where I sanded it. So I will do that and I'll come back for a final view of the bowl once I'm complete. Alright, I'll be back. I finally finished cleaning up the bowl, and as opposed to doing the UV resin, I decided to just grab some copper paint and paint the edges. I like it. I think it turned out well. But this is the final product of the balloon bowl. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and press the bell to be alerted to future videos.